Strap in and mix the oil, because we're firing up the 10 best Evinrude and Johnson two-stroke engines in US history. These aren't your grandpa's quiet cruisers. We're talking raw, carb-fed, torque-loaded beasts that shuck transoms and drained gas tanks with a grin. From rare V8 monsters to bass boat brutes, these two-strokes weren't just engines, they were a way of life. Kicking off our list is the absolute legend, the Evinrude 300 XP. Unleashed in the late 1980s, this 4-litre V8 two-stroke was less of an outboard and more of a waterborne rocket launcher. Pumping out 300 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, with a thunderous growl that could make dolphins flinch, the 300 XP quickly became a cult classic among power junkies and offshore racers alike. It wasn't just fast, it was ferocious. The torque curve hit like a truck, delivering massive grunt throughout the power band, and its brute force made it ideal for heavy hulls and high-speed antics. But make no mistake, this beast had an appetite. Fuel economy? Forget it. The 300 XP was known to drink gas like a sailor on shore leave. Still, ask any old-school boater who's run one, and you'll hear tales told with wide grins and a little reverence. As one enthusiast famously said, "Talk about torque, the V8s are a world apart from V6s. No lies detected. This thing barked, and the water listened." Coming in hot at number 2 is the 1978 Johnson 235 HP. A true milestone in Johnson's high-performance evolution. This wasn't just another V6, it was their big, bold step into muscle outboards. Packing 149 cubic inches and fitted with high-ring pistons, this two-stroke was designed to throw down serious horsepower and give boaters that seat-pinning acceleration. The 235 was a torque monster with a deep, throaty tone that told everyone at the dock you meant business. It earned its reputation not just for top-end punch, but for brute strength across the rev range. However, it wasn't without its quirks. Early models featured unique piston designs that later got phased out, making original parts something of a collector's hunt today. Some old-timers still swear by its old-school charm, even if wrenching on one now means navigating a parts treasure map. But back in the late 70s, if you had a 235 bolted to your transom, you weren't just boating, you were flying low and loud. Taking the third slot is the legendary Evinrude 200 XP. AKA the Looper, a name that still echoes fondly among hardcore bass boaters. This two-stroke V6 was built with loop-charged induction, giving it a serious edge over the older crossflow engines. That meant better breathing, smoother combustion, and a noticeable bump in efficiency. At 3 liters, it had enough muscle to launch a loaded bass rig and still leave gas in the tank for the ride back. It wasn't the loudest or flashiest engine out there, but man was it dependable. You could push it hard all day, and it just kept ticking, like the outboard version of a trusty pickup truck. Its performance wasn't just about horsepower, it was the balance. Power when you needed it, economy when you didn't, and the kind of reliability that made it a staple on lakes across the country. If you were serious about fishing in the 90s, odds are you either ran a 200 XP or chased someone who did. Loving this two-stroke throwback? Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your favorite engine in the comments below. At number 4, we've got the sleek and snarling Johnson 150 GT. A mid-range muscle machine with a cult following. This wasn't just a dressed-up 150, it was a high-output sleeper built for thrill-seekers who wanted more bite in the 150 class. Tipping the scales at 381 pounds and packing 149.4 cubic inches of two-stroke goodness, it was rated at 150 horsepower, but everyone knew it was punching above its weight. Thanks to its cross-charge loop design and tight 14:26 gear ratio, this motor delivered lightning-fast hole shots and razor-sharp throttle response. Perfect for smaller performance hulls or bass rigs that needed that quick get-up and go without jumping up into the big block category. The 150 GT was also a favorite among DIY tuners. With a few sneaky mods, you could wake this motor up into near 175 territory. And despite being a performance beast, it was tough as nails. Just ask any owner who still runs one today. It was the kind of engine that made you feel like a racer, even if you were just late to the boat ramp. Halfway through our countdown, we land on the fierce and flashy Evinrude 225 Vindicator. Introduced after 1993, this was Evinrude's way of saying, "Hold my fuel mix." Built around a 90-degree, 3-liter V6 block, the Vindicator wasn't just another badge, it was a full-blown upgrade with some serious muscle under the cowl. What set the Vindicator apart were its design tweaks, a reinforced deck, extra boost ports, and tighter tolerances all around. These enhancements translated to faster throttle response, stronger mid-range pull, and top-end power that made older 225s look sleepy. It was still a two-stroke through and through, raw, raspy, and unapologetic. One owner summed it up best: the power difference was day and night, and that's no exaggeration. Whether you were hauling a heavy fishing rig or carving turns in a performance hull, the 225 Vindicator gave you the edge, and looked damn cool doing it with its aggressive all-business aesthetic. It was one of those engines that didn't just perform, it intimidated. Don't let the badge fool you. The Johnson 175 Fast Strike was anything but ordinary. This thing was a sleeper hit, a wolf in sheep's clothing that had bass boaters grinning like they knew a secret. Officially rated at 170 horsepower, rumors and dyno tests suggested it was cranking out closer to 200 ponies right out of the box. Built in the early 90s, this V6 two-stroke was Johnson's sly response to the horsepower wars. Strategic porting, high compression heads, and aggressive timing curves gave it a serious edge over its labeled rivals. It wasn't just fast, it was fast strike fast. It could yank your boat onto a plane so quick you'd spill your coffee before the throttle hit halfway. By 1993, though, the NMMA stepped in with a tighter rulebook, mandating horsepower ratings fall within 10% of actual output. Johnson dialed it back a bit, but the legend lived on. Even today, if you see Fast Strike on the cowling, just know you're looking at a 175 that plays dirty. Coming in hot at number 7 is the Evinrude 250 XP. A big block bruiser that quickly became a favorite among performance junkies. Rated at 250 horsepower, but wink wink nudge nudge, it often delivered quite a bit more. This motor was Evinrude's not-so-subtle way of flexing in the high horsepower arms race. With a beefy 3.6-liter V6 under the hood and classic XP styling, the 250 XP was built to do one thing: haul. Whether it was strapped to a tournament bass boat or slamming through offshore chop, it didn't just perform, it dominated. Owners loved its robust internals, solid mounts, and the kind of low-end grunt that ripped boats out of the hull with authority. It wasn't shy on fuel consumption, sure, but nobody bought a 250 XP expecting a hybrid. This engine was for the throttle-happy few who didn't just want to get there, they wanted to get there first, loud and proud. Ask anyone who's ever twisted the key on one. The 250 XP wasn't just an outboard, it was an adrenaline machine. At number 8, we're unleashing the Johnson 200 Venom, a motor that didn't just sound fierce, it was fierce. The 1994 model in particular became a standout thanks to its striking design and serious bite on the water. Sporting a bold, aggressive cowling that looked like it belonged on a muscle car, this motor made a statement before you even hit the throttle. Underneath the style was substance, a 60-degree V6 two-stroke that delivered crisp throttle response, solid mid-range pull, and a top end that left many so-called 200s in its wake. The Venom series was all about attitude. sleek, strong, and slightly rebellious. It wasn't uncommon to find these strapped to go-fast rigs or high-end fishing boats where owners wanted something that could both perform and turn heads. And yeah, maybe the name was a little over the top, but once you heard it snarl at wide-open throttle, it all made perfect sense. The Johnson 200 Venom wasn't just an engine, it was a flex on the water. Taking the 9th spot is the iconic Evinrude 235 HP. A classic two-stroke powerhouse that helped define the muscle motor era of the late 1970s and early 80s. This big bore beauty featured 1 3/8-inch carbs and an old-school crankshaft horsepower rating, which, let's be honest, was probably a touch optimistic. But even if it didn't quite hit 235 at the prop, it was still a serious piece of hardware. The 235 HP was raw, loud, and unapologetically thirsty, everything you'd expect from a time when EPA standards were more of a suggestion. But what it may have lacked in fuel efficiency, it made up for in attitude and performance. It had torque to spare, made the right noises, and had just enough tuning potential to keep hot rodders busy on the weekends. Today, it's become a bit of a unicorn, coveted by collectors and vintage boaters who remember what it meant to twist the throttle and feel that surge. The Evinrude 235 wasn't perfect, but it was perfectly cool. Rounding off our list with a thunderous finale is the mighty Johnson 300 GT. A V8 colossus that made no apologies and took no prisoners. With 8 cylinders firing in harmony and displacing a massive 3.6 liters, this beast was all about one thing: torque. And not the subtle kind. This motor yanked boats out of the hole like a rodeo bull let off the leash. Known for effortlessly spinning high-pitched props without breaking a sweat, the 300 GT was built for serious offshore warriors and anyone who believed overkill was just a suggestion. It wasn't just about brute force though. The reliability of this engine became legendary. Many owners clocked over 1,000 hours on theirs, and they just kept on growling. Yes, it guzzled gas. Yes, it weighed a ton. And yes, it made your transom look like it was hosting a small moon. But for those who ran one, the Johnson 300 GT was a badge of honor, a high-horsepower hammer that reminded everyone else. V6s were cute, but V8s ruled. These engines represent a golden era of two-stroke outboard motors, where raw power met engineering prowess. While they may be rarities on the water today, their legacies continue to influence modern marine engineering.